There were a couple of people in the study who reported, like, of the 550 who responded, like, 4 of them, I think, were stung in the face, which sounds...
Oh, no.
That was exactly
my
response.
What are you doing?
Yeah, why are you don't need to, like, nuzzle up to
Holding it up to your
a
face.
lionfish.
Give it a little kiss on the cheek.
Oh.
So can we, like, as professional aquarists, can you all, like, say maybe don't do that?
Yeah, don't hold a lionfish to your face, please.
Hands to yourself.
Hey there, Bacchus Aquanauts. It's your host, Casey here. You know, one of the most interesting contradictions in nature is how beautiful and incredibly dangerous an animal can be. Think of all the documentaries you've watched of graceful predators like leopard seals, kingfishers, or tigers doing what comes naturally to them. Let your eyes and brain stray away from the hypnotic draw of their rippling muscles and gymnast-like agility, however, and the reality of the predator-prey relationship can color that interaction. In a balanced ecosystem, there's nothing wrong with nature doing as nature does, even if it can sometimes seem gruesome or unfortunate for the animal on the receiving end of a predator's attention. But in an ecosystem that's been thrown out of balance thanks to the unexpected addition of an invasive species, the lack of natural checks and balances can wreak absolute havoc. Such is the case in the Gulf, which became the unexpected home of lionfish in the 1980s. A beautiful, rapidly breeding Indo-Pacific species with a big appetite and no natural predators, even a single lionfish has been found to reduce the reproduction of native reef fish by almost 80%. Since many of these fish would otherwise be consumed by native species like grouper or snapper, lionfish's influence on food webs is much larger than their relatively small size might suggest. One of the main attempts to monitor the scope of lionfish's impact in the Gulf is so-called lionfish derbies. These community competitions charge participants with culling as many lionfish as possible within a given area in a limited time. For 10 years, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, has hosted the Lionfish Invitational in the Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuary. Participants in this multi-day science-based research expedition remove lionfish while also collecting data to help monitor the ecological impact of this invasive species and understand how, in some ways, nature may be finding ways to rebalance itself. In this episode of the podcast, we'll meet 4 aquarists who have taken part in the Lionfish Invitational. We'll talk about their contributions to this scientific undertaking and what it was like to experience the real-life inspiration for the aquarium's largest exhibit, the Secret Reef. But we're just treading water now. I think it's time we dive right in, don't you? On with the podcast. Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Podcast Aquatic, the official podcast of the Tennessee Aquarium. Today, I want to talk about an invasive species, which is a topic that we've covered before on the show, but in this particular case, it's about a very specific effort to get rid of an invasive species. And before we get too into that, let's work our way around the studio dive cage today. We'll just go with you, Adam. Adam Johnson, you are our animal care facility lead. Is that your...
Yep, that's right.
Awesome. All right. And next to you is Kimberly Hurt. Kimberly, you are a senior aquarist.
Correct.
And across from you is Avery Millard. Avery, you are a senior aquarist as well.
Yes.
And then next to you, and also to me, is Kyle McFeeters. Kyle, you are the lead aquarist, life support systems. Is that...
That's the gist. I say lead LSS aquarist.
Lead LSS aquarist.
Well, your name tag doesn't say that.
No. I'm trying to stay humble.
Now everyone knows what LSS means, though. So life support system. So you're helping out with all the stuff that keeps the aquatics alive.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. All of you have been on the show before. Thank you for coming back. And today, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about an effort to get rid of an invasive species. And the invasive species in question is the lionfish. And the subject of today's show is the Lionfish Invitational. And the Lionfish Invitational may sound like some sort of gala or something, but it's not. It is let me look at my notes so I can quote this specifically. This is off of NOAA, so the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's website describes it as a multi-day science-based research expedition in which dive teams work to remove lionfish from places that they're not supposed to be. I may have ad-libbed the last part, that may be me, but the bulk of that was from NOAA. And these are also sometimes called lionfish derbies, so they're events in which participants compete to collect and remove as many lionfish as possible from a given area, and that's all kind of in an effort to both get rid of the invasive species, but also to raise awareness of the issues that stem from them being where they're not supposed to be. So all of you on today's show have been to the Lionfish Invitational, some of you more recently than others. Let's see, so Adam and Avery, you went most recently. When was your trip?
It was in June of this year.
Okay. And then Kimberly and Kyle, you went a couple years ago?
2023.
Okay. And so this is the Lionfish Invitational is conducted in the Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuary. So where is that exactly?
It is located in the Gulf, right off the coast of Texas. I guess not right off. It's like
Yeah.
100 miles out
150
into
miles,
the Gulf.
something like
yeah.
So farther out than I think I thought it was.
Uh-huh.
And the special thing about this is that, well, there are a lot of things that are special about the Flower Garden Banks, I guess. But one of the things that's special about it is that it's not a shallow reef system. These are deep reefs, deep water reefs. Can someone explain what exactly a deep water reef is?
Basically, so I guess there was a long pause because I was like, doesn't this kind of make sense?
Everyone was looking at the
Basically-
lead aquarist to handle this, I guess.
Basically, the reef is deeper. So I think their shallowest reefs are like 50 down to 60, 70, 80 feet. So we have, our secret reef represents that habitat, and it is representative of the corals found there. So it tends to be lower light corals because they are so much deeper in the ocean than these really shallow, like we call like a high energy reef.
So like the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, that would be like a shallower, more high energy reef. So it's these deeper reef systems, and that's Flower Garden Banks.
The Flower Garden Banks covers a pretty significant area, about 160 square miles, which when I looked it up online, I was told that's somewhere between the size of Buffalo, New York, and New Orleans. If you've ever been to either of those cities, that's pretty big. It's not as big as like the Great Barrier Reef, obviously, but not an insignificant reef system. So you said that this is the actual location that we are trying to replicate in the Secret Reef exhibit. So that's the largest exhibit in the Ocean Journey building, and as a consequence, the entire aquarium. 618,000 gallons. It's enormous. So all of you, I think, pretty sure, all of you have been diving in that exhibit before. So what is it like having now been to the real deal, to have experienced both our version of it and the real thing? How would you contrast them? How close do we get to what the Flower Garden Banks is actually like?
I felt like when we did the actual dive in the Gulf, it was like, oh, I've already been here before. It's like you don't really think about it. Like a lot of aquariums use false coral in their exhibits. It's just common. But I feel like a lot of aquariums also have kind of broad area range that they are turning their exhibits into. But with the Secret Reef, we really dialed in on specifically the Flower Garden Banks. And so we almost one-to-one replicated like the types of corals that are there. So jumping into the ocean, coming off the boat, it felt like I just set foot back into the Secret Reef, even though we're, hundreds of miles from home at this point.
Everybody else have a similar experience? I mean, did it feel kind of like deja vu or what?
Yeah, I think we were diving kind of over top of the reef at one point, like on our first shakedown dive. And then when we dropped down kind of into the reef, I think I turned around and there was just a huge, really tall brain coral, like probably 15 or 20 feet tall.
That's a pretty tall coral.
It was very tall. And I turned around and I was like, oh, it does look exactly like T30.
Wow. So that's internal speak for Secret Reef.
Secret Reef.
Yeah, the coral you're picturing on the dive, we were seeing stuff like that, and that's like when you're at the dive show window, that one big one off to the right, it really looked like that there. Mm-hmm. So that was half the fun for me to go on this trip was in like 2004 when we were getting ready to build that exhibit. A bunch of people went down there to see it, and that was long before any of us were here. So to get the chance to go down and see it, like this is what all the fuss is about, this is what our exhibit's modeled after, and then to get in like, oh, it's not just representative of it. It really looks just like that.
But we're really I've allowed the cart to get so far in front of the horse in this particular conversation because we don't even know why we're down there. So let's back up a little bit. It's called the Lionfish Invitational. Who can explain first of all, what a lionfish is, in case somebody has never seen one for whatever reason, and also why lionfish pose such a danger in the place where they are. So in the Gulf, why are they such a problem?
Well, lionfish are an endemic species to the Indo-Pacific region.
So only found naturally in that space.
Right. So they naturally occur over in the Indo-Pacific. They are really pretty fish. They've got really gorgeous, vibrant vertical stripes and really pretty frilly fins that are venomous. So that's kind of fun about them. But they were introduced to the Caribbean Gulf area in the 80s, I think people were starting to document them.
90s, I think, yeah.
Yeah. And they are incredibly predatory, and they don't really have any natural predators at the moment. So they just feast on reef fish constantly and become quite an invasive problem. And they reproduce incredibly quickly.
Yeah, we dive a little bit deeper into the history of lionfish and the ecological threat that they pose in our past episode specifically about invasive species. One thing that I think is important to bring back from that episode is, as you mentioned, they're really pretty animals. And it's important, I stump on this all the time, I stump on it in the past episode too, that there's really no such thing as a bad animal or a good animal. They're just animals that are having an impact that is negative, but it's usually through no fault of their own. You said that they were introduced into the Gulf back in the 80s or 90s, decades ago. Mm-hmm. And introduced implies that happened through no fault of their own. They didn't migrate there. They were introduced, which means that probably we're at fault, right?
Yes. Yeah, I think there's several leading theories that they came over and bilged on ships. I've heard from the pet trade. People just released them. So they're definitely here because of human activity.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that before we get into discussion of the Lionfish Invitational and what it's setting out to do and some of the things that happen in the course of the Lionfish Invitational, understand that no one here in this room is saying that lionfish are in and of themselves bad. They are not a bad animal. Is that agreed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Lionfish Invitational, which was started back in 2015. So the name implies, Lionfish Invitational implies that you can't just show up and take part. As much as you might think lionfish don't belong in the Gulf, we should do what we can to protect the Gulf. No one can just walk up and take part in the Invitational. So how do you get invited to this event?
So it's more of an application process, if I remember correctly. So there's a whole application that you have to go through of listing who you are, why you want to go, what's your diving experience. And then the people that run the Lionfish Invitational, specifically Rachel Bowman, gets to go through and pick the people that she wants to bring on the boat with her. So it's not just any old Joe can show up. She's trying to find good, experienced divers who know what they're doing. And a lot of those divers are people like us that work at aquariums or scientists, people of that sort.
So were there other people from aquariums then on your trip?
Yeah, we had people from the Texas State Aquarium.
Georgia
Aquarium too. That's correct.
I think that was it, just those two.
Yeah.
We had two from Audubon in New Orleans.
Okay, so for them that was pretty close, kind of
Yeah.
in their own backyard. Okay. So we mentioned that you all went, you've already gone this year, Adam and Avery. There were 4 dives, or I think they call them cruises on the website. I don't know if that's what they refer to them to you all, but that is how they refer to them online. But there were 4 scheduled for this year. 2 have already happened. Avery and Adam, since this experience is maybe freshest in your mind, having not had 2 years to have it just sort of disappear into the depths of your brain, what was it like to go down there and take part in this? I mean, why did you want to do it? You said there was an application process. What was the impetus for wanting to be involved?
I just thought it was really cool that we had the opportunity to go do some hands-on science and also see the real life place that the exhibit, The Secret Reef, is based off of. So I took that opportunity, definitely. And it was a really cool trip, and there was a lot of really cool science projects that were going on while we were on board with different universities and different government organizations. So it was really cool to participate and help with those in any way that we could.
Yeah, Adam, anything to add to that?
I mean, just kind of like what Avery was saying, just the experience to dive there. It's pretty hard to get out to the flower gardens. It's expensive. It's long live aboard trips usually. So going to help in a scientific capacity also just gives you the opportunity to see the reef that you might not ever get to.
Yeah, so you're out on the boat for the entirety of the trip, right? So you're sleeping on the boat, I guess. Is it? I mean, are the pretty tight quarters or?
Yeah.
It's a bunk room with 4 people in a bunk, and you get to know your roommates very well.
Yeah.
The bunks are coffin sized for reference.
Yeah, my head
Teensy
hit one
tiny.
end and my feet hit the other. So I didn't really rock, which was nice.
Yeah, actually, so you, Kyle and Kimberly, you had a kind of a storied history with your trip. Yeah, that size says a lot. So you had a false start, right? You went down and then you had to go back. Can you kind of catch us up on what happened and why why the false start occurred?
So our first go, we take off. So you start on the boat kind of close to nighttime, and then over the course of the night, they are supposed to drive you out to the flower garden banks because it takes so long to get there off the coast. And we were told, okay, when you get up in the morning, be ready bright and early. First thing you're going to do is get ready to go for your first dive. But then when we woke back up, I was like, why am I seeing buildings out of the windows? Because you're supposed to be out in the middle of the ocean, not able to see land back around you anymore. But what had happened was there was an engine failure. So apparently they'd already had some mechanical issues. And they have 2 main engines, but if one of them goes down, that's a safety hazard of if the other one breaks, you are just completely stranded. So in the middle of the night, one of those engines had broken and they just simply had to turn around and bring us back to land for that first go around.
No.
It was so disappointing.
We're all standing like the galley area, the kitchen. It's like the bulk of the inside of the boat. So we're just kind of milling about first thing in the morning, like being sad. And this girl comes up the stairs like, oh my gosh, I missed them like doing the wake up call. I can't believe I slept through that. And I just give like a head nod, and she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Look behind you." And she turns around, and there's the dock, and she's like, "Oh no!"
Oh.
Then we caught her up to speed on the whole situation.
I remember when I got word that this had happened, and I felt so bad for the 2 of you because you drove all the way, or you flew down there?
Yeah, we flew from Tennessee to Texas. Had spent the night in a hotel room already. You know, all of this excitement leading up to it. If we'd done so much dive training and like getting the gear ready and all that, just to, okay, just kidding, go home now because the boat's broken was really such a letdown.
Oh man! But you did go. You eventually got down there. I'm not
The
having
following year, correct?
Yeah, you're not down here just to, or on the show just to talk about not
The
not
broken
going.
boat.
Okay, so you got to go back in. That was 2022. Then you went
Yes.
going in 2023.
Yes, 2023. We had a successful trip. We made it more than just one night on the boat.
Now, did it live up? Did it make up for all the misery on that first attempt? I mean, did you enjoy your time?
No, I think it absolutely made up for it. We still were a couple dives short on the second trip because we had big seas, rough waves. So it wasn't the full trip, but it was a blast. And just to get to go out there and see the environment was really fun.
So what kind of equipment are you using? I mean, you're diving pretty deep, but what kinds of tools are you making use of while you're in the water? I'm assuming you're not just going around with your hands free. I mean, catching them.
You do generally use like standard scuba gear. You don't need anything special going that deep other than a special gas mix, which is the nitrox mix that they use that has a lower percentage of nitrogen, a higher percentage of oxygen so that you can have longer dives at those depths. But then you do have the whole setup of gear to actually do the catching of the lionfish. So you have your spear and the zookeeper. And then we had all kind of, what was the tape called? The transect tape to lay out like the grids where you are going to be collecting the fish. And then at one dive, we had a bunch of nets with us because we were trying to live catch some lionfish. So you're just absolutely loaded down with all that gear, your safety gear, just incredible.
How do you keep track of that much gear while you're in the water? Is it just like tethered to you, or
A lot of safety
clips
Okay.
everywhere, all over your vest, essentially.
You mentioned doing special dive training before you went down. Was that done here with our dive safety officer, or was it down there?
No, we did that here. Did we go to Philadelphia?
We did.
Mark Craven, our dive safety officer, took us up there and did some sort of demo runs with the spears and the zookeeper so that we had practice with those. And I don't think we did much other than trying some deeper dives so that we could make sure we could handle the depth.
The nitrox certification doesn't actually require any dives. It's all like math and theoretical. So we did all that with Mark, but then he's like, well, before y'all go, like, let's go do a dive in the wild since we mostly dive here. So yeah, it was more just to get out and get in the open water more.
So you mentioned a zookeeper twice. What exactly is a zookeeper?
So that's like the big tube that you store the lionfish in after you've caught them because they're venomous. You don't want those spines exposed. So it's a hard tube that you sort of stick the lionfish in with the spear. And then when you're able to pull the spear back out and the lionfish stays contained in that tube.
Okay. Yeah. And we should probably, so you mentioned venomous. We should probably circle back a little bit to talk about lionfish and why they're called lionfish. I'm assuming that has to do with those spines, right? So they look like a lion's mane. Regardless, the spines are where the venom is stored, correct? So how does that work? Is that purely a defensive thing for lionfish, or I mean, they're not using the venom for hunting; it's for defense, correct?
Yeah, it's stored in their spine. So if a predator tries to put their mouth around a lionfish, they get stabbed with a nice little venomous cocktail.
Yikes. Okay, so I looked this up, actually. The National Institutes of Health did a study basically asking about 550 people who have been envenomated by lionfish to talk about what that experience was like, because there was a lack of literature basically talking about what that experience of being stung by a lionfish felt like. And the 550 people rated an average pain index of between 0 and 10, 0 being didn't feel like anything, 10 felt like just pure mortal agony, a 7.2, which is pretty high.
That is high.
That sounds pretty tremendous. And apparently the pain peaked about an hour after being stung. So you get stung and it hurt. It was about a 4, I think, initially, and then it just ramped up. And then you potentially could feel effects of that for days. So when you're going through the training leading up to actually taking part in the Invitational, did they specifically cover how to safely deal with these animals just because of the fact that they do have the potential to cause that kind of pain and suffering if you were to actually get stung?
So the gear you're using, Kimberly talking about the zookeeper, it's picture like working with cactus. Like if you're a gardener trying to repot this plant, you got to handle it carefully or else it's going to stab you. Same way. So you use the spear to get the lionfish and then you put it in the zookeeper and now you're protected. So later when you're on the boat and you open the zookeeper back up, then you can handle it carefully. But while you're actually diving, you're just using the spear and the zookeeper. So you're not actually touching it.
Okay. All right.
I'm trying to remember too. Didn't we not even wear gloves while we were there because they're trying to discourage you from feeling like you have any sort of protection on your hands so that you're not even tempted to try to touch them? I'm pretty sure we did not wear gloves the entire
did not
time.
dive with gloves, for sure. But I think it was also like flower garden banks. They generally don't want you to. I have been stung by lionfish.
How did that feel? How would you rank it on a pain scale of 0 to 10?
Mine's skewed, I think, because I was holding a fish bag like this, and we poured one in.
You're gesturing on the podcast. That doesn't.
I was just telling you guys. I don't know.
So anyway, you were holding the bag open.
Correct. And somebody else poured a lionfish in water into a bag. That's how we move fish. And it stung me on one of my knuckles. So I think it wasn't like a big hit, like getting in your muscle or something.
Just a graze rather than a stab.
I mean, it hurt for like a couple hours. So I know I definitely got like venom from it. But it felt like a bad wasp sting, but then just didn't go away in like 5 minutes like a wasp sting would.
Just
so
kind of
it just
lingered
hung there for a while. Yeah. But again, it wasn't a ton, I don't think, because it was just like kind of into my skin, not into muscle.
Yeah.
But didn't seem too crazy for me. So
in the report that I mentioned, and I'll link to this report in the show notes, but the majority of people who got stung, 72% were stung while they were spearfishing. So I guess because it's not uncommon for people to do what you all were doing, whether it was on an invitational or just on their own, because there are a lot of people, if you look online, you see a lot of videos of people spearfishing lionfish. And we'll get into why we think that's an okay thing to do, even though we are an aquarium and we love all wildlife. We'll explain why our feelings about this are a little bit different. But yeah, most of the people who were stung while they were spearfishing, and the vast majority of them were stung on their hands or their arms. So kind of makes sense that you would have had that experience, and that people who were spearfishing probably would have a similar experience. There were a couple of people in the study who reported, like, of the 550 who responded, like 4 of them, I think, were stung in the face, which sounds...
Oh, no.
That was exactly my response.
What are you doing?
Yeah, why are you don't need to, like, nuzzle up to a lionfish.
Give it a little kiss on the cheek.
Oh.
So can we, like, as professional aquarists, can you all, like, say maybe don't do that?
Yeah, don't hold a lionfish to your face, please.
Hands to yourself.
Avery's back.
Sorry.
Avery is feeling under the weather, and I think had to take him.
She got stung by a lion.
Yeah.
On her face.
7.2 out of 10 on pain.
Good. So the report checks out.
Yes.
All right. So I mentioned earlier that the Flower Garden Banks is 160 square miles, about the size of New Orleans, or somewhere between New Orleans and Buffalo. it consists of a couple of distinct like places, or there's like the West Bank and the East Bank, and like Stetson Bank, I think, is another one of them. So where exactly were you all collecting, and did both teams who are represented in this episode collect in the same spot?
We dove all three. We dove the East Garden Bank and the West Garden Bank, and we dove Stetson Reef.
Bank.
Stetson Bank, that's right, yes.
And you did rigs too, didn't
And we
you?
also dove rigs, yes.
Yeah. So
which
our
was
trip
really
was
cool.
combined, which was really cool. So it was they were scouting for a rigs to reef program, which is where they take old oil rigs and convert them into reefs after they're decommissioned.
Oh, cool. So they were looking for a location to potentially do that. Is that?
Yeah, they were scouting some rigs that were already but not in operation to see if they make a good candidate for that.
Oh, cool. And were you guys same spot, different spot?
I think on paper it's to be East and West and Stetson. That's kind of the norm. But then again, because of rough seas, we did a full day at Stetson, which generally you do a half day. So we did first day at Stetson for 4 dives, and then was it East?
I think we did the east side. Yeah.
East for 4 dives, and then came home. We canned the last day because it was just too rough.
Oh yeah, okay. So the weather, I guess. Man, you guys had such a rough go of it, and you couldn't even get the full time the second time.
We were so tired by that point. I was not upset that
was
we
a
were
lot.
missing just a couple dives.
Yeah, let's talk about so how long were the days when you were out? Because you're out for multiple days. Like from what time to what time? How long are you actually under the water?
We usually hit the water at 7 or 8, depending on the day. And then it's generally 4 dives. Some days it was 3. But I mean, you were probably wrapped up in having dinner by 6.
Okay,
Yeah.
still feels like a long day.
Yeah, it's a lot of dives.
It's like we did about, I would say, 30 to 40 minute dives every time we were down, just because we were going so deep. So it wasn't a super long dive every time we went down.
Is this the deepest that all of you have been diving? I mean,
Me, yeah.
On the oil rigs, we were allowed to go to 120.
I think it was we were allowed to go to 130, but we went to 120.
Yeah,
I know
and
we
that was
went
the
to-
deepest I've
Yes,
ever
that was the
been.
deepest
Yeah.
I've ever been to.
And
Okay.
I think we touched around like 100, and I was too scared to go much deeper, so we stayed away from the deep end.
so for context, if you've been to the aquarium, and you need to have a sort of mental picture of how deep that is exactly. The deepest point in the aquarium, I believe, is the bottom of Secret Reef, which is 32 feet.
Correct.
Okay, so you're talking 3 to 4 times that depth. What is it like to be that deep? How different was it from being at, say, the bottom of Secret Reef?
For me, it's really disorienting because anytime you're diving in an exhibit, you can look up and there's the surface of the water and you've got walls around you at all times. It's like if the visibility was not perfectly clear, you could look up and it's just all you can see is water. You cannot see the surface. You've just got like the trailing bubbles of the divers around you. So it's just incredible how expansive it is. So to me, it was a little scary. I just had to not think about it too hard.
Yeah. Anybody else have any weird feelings while you're that deep?
I think the light is the weirdest part for me, because as you go deeper, the colors of light go away. So like Kimberly dives with purple fins, and when we get going, they'd be blue because the red goes away first. And so I'd be like, wait, I'm following Kimberly. Wait, where's her purple fins? And they'd turn blue pretty quick because the red light gets filtered out. And then, yeah, just as you go deeper and deeper, there's even less colors. So I thought that was really interesting about the depth. Otherwise, you're not feeling that pressure like you think, oh, that's 3 times the pressure of the Secret Reef. Like, well, you're equalizing your ears. You don't feel much different, I don't think. So it wasn't that. But, yeah, just the lighting, that it just, like, had a kind of eerie lighting to it. Just a lot of blues. Yeah, it was fun.
There are probably some people with thalassophobia that are having some like
Yeah.
minor panic attacks over this. Yeah, if you are, I apologize for not issuing a trigger warning before we started this episode. That does seem really deep. I don't know that I would feel comfortable
It's
getting
not
that
that
deep.
bad.
You don't feel it.
Adam.
It's scary. It's scary to
It's
me.
fine.
I make a point not to look up because I know I did that one time when I was in much shallower water and it freaked me out. So I don't look up if I'm that deep.
It's not just me.
It's not just you.
Okay, so the Lionfish Invitational, the whole point is to collect and cull the lionfish. Before we talk about how big a problem they are and how many you saw, we should probably talk about the fact that, again, we are representing an aquarium. This is an aquarium's official podcast. We at the aquarium obviously are here to showcase animals, and in this particular case, you were removing them from the environment. So I did want to kind of gauge your feelings about this and whether you thought that was like how, if you had issues with that, how did you reconcile the fact that you were going out to spearfish some of these animals and remove them from the environment? Was that difficult at all for you? And if it was, how did you reconcile that in your minds?
I think when we were doing our orientation, one of the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department scientists gave a talk about how one lionfish over the course of a year can eat up to 1 million native reef fish. So that made me feel a lot better about it, because I do think lionfish are really cool, but also the native reef fish could potentially be in a lot of trouble if they really become a really bad problem.
Okay. Yeah. So, and as referencing back again to that previous episode about invasive species, that has a lot to do with the fact that anytime you introduce an animal to an environment where it has not evolved to be part of, it's out of balance, right? So there just isn't a predator to take it out of the ecosystem. So in this case, you are kind of having to sub in for nature and kind of fill a role that there otherwise would not be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a man-made problem, so it does need a little bit of manpower to find a solution to it.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. I've read, or I've seen, I guess, a lot of these videos online of people, I guess, because lionfish are so well known to be an invasive species, there are a lot of people down in the Keys and in the Gulf who have posted videos of, seeing these animals and doing what I guess they see as their part to help cull them and remove them from the environment. They don't seem like they react much to people being near them, kind of like they feel like I have nothing to fear from you. So was that your experience? I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen them recreationally diving like in Florida, and they don't really react to divers' presence in that instance. So I was kind of expecting that, but they really do not care. You can be an inch away from their face with a spear, and they'll just sit there and look at you.
That's why it's a problem with them not having any predators, because they think they're invincible. They're venomous. So they're so flashy and vibrant. So when a potential predator, like a grouper perhaps, comes over to them and they just kind of like twist their body so their spines are angled towards that predator. He's like, I was going to eat this thing. Wait, but why is he pointing that at me? What is that? Is that, maybe I shouldn't eat that. And they don't get eaten. And in their native range, there's fish that are like, I don't care, and just eat them anyway. But in our waters here, it's off-putting enough, and it's such a display that predators that could swallow a fish that big are turned off from that, and they don't want to eat it. But they do that same reaction to us. You swim up to it as a diver, and it's like, look at my spines, and you can just spear them.
Look at my spine. The Tennessee Aquarium's podcast Aquatic is made possible by support from the Tennessee Conservationist, the official magazine of Tennessee state parks. Each issue is filled with fascinating stories about Tennessee's native species, rich history, and unique culture. It's also your guide to exploring state parks and planning your next outdoor adventure. Subscribe today at tnconservationist.org. Okay, so Adam, you said that you've seen them prior to this experience. Where were you previously that you saw them?
I've done a lot of diving around like West Palm and in the Keys and stuff.
Okay. Were they really prevalent there? Like how would the numbers where you saw them previously compare to what you saw on the trip to the Flower Garden Banks?
Yeah. I think they're pretty well hunted and their populations are decently maintained there. So I've heard that they like to stay deeper than recreational diving usually allows. So it's pretty occasional that you see one down there. But I would say it was kind of the same at least on our trip. In total, they caught 99. And our hunters on their boat were pretty effective hunters from what we were observing.
You just couldn't find one more, make it around 100?
Listen, we tried. Avery and I were not very good hunters, to be honest.
We contributed 0 to that total.
Oh, really?
I am not that embarrassed to say.
No, it's harder than it looks.
It is harder than it looks. So all the more credit to the lionfish hunters that are good at it.
Yeah.
Not us.
We were nicely approached on our second day about doing fish surveys for Texas parks because they thought that would be more useful
and
for our
was.
skills.
Okay. Well, Kimberly and Kyle, before we cover the other scientific stuff that was going on these trips, how many did you collect on your trip, or how many were collected on your trip?
So I think it was close to 100 on our trip total through the whole thing.
I think it was the same, like in the 90s.
And then you speared one, and then I caught one in a net that they were using for like radio tagging studies. So
That was super cool. Not to get too off topic, but they're like, cool, you guys catch fish in aquariums, so you can use fish nets, right? So take these nets and catch live ones. So we found 2 live ones, and she swooped in and scooped one up. And the people doing these, like implanting these tags, are literally doing fish surgery on the ocean floor. So they're like, cool, you get one in a net and then come back up to our line, and we'll be at the base of that just waiting for you guys. So other teams were looking for live fish to bring them. So we just have them in the net. It's locked in there. We give it to them. They'll take it out. They'll anesthetize it, open it up, put this transponder tag in it, stitch it up, and release it.
All underwater.
All underwater while they're diving too. And they only have maybe a 40 to 55 minute dive themselves. So they're going to do multiple fish during that dive. And the reasoning is then they release them into the reef. They tag them so we don't spear them. So you see that tag and you don't kill that one because, you know, it's got a tag in it. And it'll go ping the transponders so that they can track their movements throughout the reef.
Okay, yeah, because when I asked NOAA for some statistics about, you know, the success of the Invitational over the years, they did talk about the fact that they've been doing long-term studies, I think, since 1989 of the flower garden banks, and part of that is a fish movement study, and I'm sure that what you're talking about is probably contributing data to that.
They did ask for a couple other species of fish to do the same thing.
Do you remember what those species were?
I know they were doing Graysby.
Graysby, and there was another G.
It was another kind of grouper that looked like a Graysby, I thought.
That was the coolest thing watching that surgery, though. So I remember we kind of like sat there for a moment and watched them work on it and went, oh, that's fish surgery right there.
That's what they were talking about on our trip, too, is that those...
Gray snapper. Correct.
Gray snapper.
Nice.
Was that those tags that they put in? I think those are the ones that have they react to the enzyme.
Oh, that was new this year.
Oh, that was new this year? Okay, gotcha. Never
Oh,
mind.
but go ahead.
Well, now I want to
Yeah, now I want to know more.
Tell us.
They had tagged some, it was Marissa, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
They had tagged some lionfish, and they were trying to do a predator study to see if anything was eating lionfish. And it had kind of come back that there actually were like a decent amount of things that were eating lionfish. And the way that it worked was there was like a special tag that they put in the lionfish, and when it hits the enzymes in the stomach contents of a predator fish, it dissolves it, and then it activates this. I'm way out of my depth here, but
So essentially you can track the predator, and
Yes.
it also, like, you were able to type which kind of fish it was.
Is it like
based on some
environmental
data.
sampling to pick up the enzymes?
No, it's like the tag itself will put out a signal when it's been digested. So
It
when
like
the lion
dissolves a coating around the tag.
yes, so that you can tell that lionfish has been eaten.
That's really cool.
It hasn't just like disappeared or the tag
Yeah.
hasn't stopped working. It's
Yes.
actually been consumed.
Very
Yes.
cool.
Do they know, you said it's new this year, do they have any idea what actually would be predating upon lionfish?
They said it was several grouper species and also some sharks.
And yeah. Mhm.
Good for them. Good
Yeah.
for them doing their part to clean
They
up
can
the
move.
reef.
It was a bigger number. I wish we could actually get the number, but it was a bigger number than I was expecting. Like the percentage of fish that they had tagged that had ended up getting eaten, it was more than I thought. So maybe the reef is starting to like help itself.
Rebalance.
Oh, yeah, rebalance. There you go. Yeah, rebalance.
Coming back from this trip, a lot of our volunteer divers, they hunt lionfish in Florida. Like, lots of divers love doing this. It's good for the environment, and it's like a fun, like treasure seeking dive. They're trying to find this fish.
They also taste good from what I've heard.
They taste great. They're yeah, you can do anything with them. So coming back, people are like, great. Did you guys get like hundreds and hundreds on your trip? You had 30 divers in the water, right? For 3 days. I'm like, we got like 100. Like 100? I've got that many on a dive by myself. We're like, no, this is like a good thing. They weren't there. It's not that we were just messing up. They just weren't there, which is awesome that they weren't in the flower garden banks. So yeah, it wasn't that we weren't able to do our job. It's just that we weren't seeing them, which was really positive.
Yeah. It's kind of like the idea of a lot of conservation work is to like work yourself out of a job or do so well that you don't have a job to do.
I think, again, they're theorizing perhaps just the way the currents are. Maybe they didn't get as widely deposited there. You know, the eggs floating on the current. Maybe there just have never been that many. My understanding is there's never been a problem like there is in Florida at the flower garden banks.
So like what you experienced in Adam.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked NOAA, a representative from NOAA, if there were any measurable impacts that they'd been able to track based on the Lionfish Invitational. And Olivia Eisenbach, who's one of their affiliate research specialists, responded and I am reading off of something, I can't just memorize this, but she said, while we don't have any conclusive information at this moment on the impact of these Lionfish Invitational cruises, we have noticed a decline of lionfish within the sanctuary during the Lionfish Invitational cruises this year. So I guess they mean in 2025. So did they mention anything about that to you while you were there? Like, oh yeah, we're seeing fewer lionfish than we're used to.
Yeah.
Okay. Did they have given you indication why they thought that might be the case? Is it something to do with the predation you just mentioned, or are they leaving the area? Or
I don't think they were really going to make any big hypotheses at the time. There's also like with invasive species, there's like a boom and bust dynamic for sure. So we might just be in kind of a bust time, or it might, all the solutions that they're throwing at it might be working, but I don't think they're like really committing to one answer yet, you know?
That's fair. Scientists they are reluctant, I guess, to release a conclusion before they have a lot of data to back it up. So that makes sense. Speaking of scientists, we've kind of touched a little bit on some of the other things that were going on in the orbit of the actual lionfish collection. That is sort of the core of the Lionfish Invitational mission. What were some of the other projects that were happening while you were on the boats that you can talk about, just to kind of give people an idea of what kind of research is being done on these cruises?
I remember they were doing the Ciguatera toxin monitoring on the cruises that we went on. So they were taking like flesh samples from some of the lionfish that we captured and analyzing the meat for a toxin.
We were also to do fish surveys. It wasn't, well, to circle back, Adam saying like, oh, we weren't any good at it, so they asked us to look at fish. They did ask us to do fish surveys too, because we look at a lot more fish than the average diver that just goes out once in a while. So yeah, we were surveying. We actually didn't end up doing it, but we had discussed like literally just tracking what fish there were, how many there were they juveniles, were they adults, what you're seeing through the length of a transect.
Yeah, this, I guess, ties back in again to another previous episode of the podcast where Rachel Thayer, who is our assistant curator of fishes, came on to talk about the role that aquariums and zoos can play in scientific research. It's interesting to hear this, though, that this was going on, because this is an example of our expertise inside the building being leveraged outside the building, as opposed to what Rachel was talking about, which was to be doing research inside the building to contribute to science outside the building. So whether you realize it or not, when you're coming to support a zoo or an aquarium, you are actually supporting scientific work being done both inside of our walls as well as outside our walls in this case, which I think is really cool. And I think it's cool that you guys were taking part in not just removing lionfish from the environment, but also contributing in both of your cases to other scientific projects. So good for you. And if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about some of the work that's been done, some scientific publications that have come out of the Lionfish Invitational, you can go to lionfishinvitational.com/publications. That's one of the sites that kind of aggregates a lot of those published papers. And then if you would like to know a little bit more about the monitoring that I mentioned earlier, another one of the websites to look to is sanctuaries.noaa.gov. And there's a list of some database of conclusions that they've been able to draw or stats and records that they've kept in that time. So both of those are good resources to go to if you'd like to know a little bit more about the work that's been done. And as you can probably tell by the way that I'm reading off these things as if we're ending the episode, we are in fact closing out the episode. So do you all have any parting thoughts about the experience that you had on the Lionfish Invitational back in 2023 or in the more recent trip that you all did back in June? What the experience was like, why you're glad you did it, what it was like to see things, anything else that you didn't mention so far?
I mean, I think it's always cool just to see like how government agencies and scientists are working together to solve problems. On our boat, they were doing a project with invasive regal damselfish where they were studying their impact on native chromis species. So there's never-ending problems in the ocean that humans have caused and we can find solutions to. But it's cool to see people actually like in the field doing good work, making use of their resources.
Yeah, I like Kimberly's the discussion of this earlier, summation of it, that it's a man-made problem that man has to have a hand in solving. Anybody else have any thoughts about what your experience was like and what impact it had on you?
I thought it was a good perspective reset for me, because you get kind of boxed into, yes, we're aquarists, but this is our 9-to-5 job, so we're just doing this every day inside of a building. So to get us back out into the field, into the wild was oh yeah, there's more out there. We are representing these, locales back home so that people that can't make it out to the Gulf can still see what's going on out there in our oceans.
Yeah, absolutely. I love anytime that I get to go out with into the field with our scientists. It's a great, like you said, perspective reset, great way to show why we do what we do and reconnect you with the mission. So I was going to save this and ask it at the end, but I guess I'll ask it now. I mean, this is kind of the end, but is this a problem that there is like an endpoint to, or is it more like we've created a problem that we're just going to have to learn to live with and try and just get the ecosystem more back in balance with this additional species that's not going anywhere?
I think in terms of human intervention, we can maintain with a lot of active hunting and population management strategies, but I think it's, as far as we can go, it's management. But also the ocean's incredibly capable of taking care of itself. So who knows what, in 100 years, what predators will have learned to just eat lionfish and take care of them.
I mean, I'm heartened by the whole grouper shark thing. I'm like rooting for those guys.
Same.
I have seen that a lot of fish that live on these reefs that people do, like the Florida dives where they go around with lionfish too, they're starting to snappers and groupers will follow the divers, because the divers a lot of times will offer speared lionfish to those fish, here, you want a snack sort of thing. So it's almost like they are teaching them to if you can get a hold of these are edible.
This is food.
Yes, this is food.
Yeah, ultimately it's going to be that biological control that the native predators learn they can eat them because they've seen them with ROVs hundreds and hundreds of feet deep. So all this work we're doing up near the surface on these reefs, these deep reefs that aren't, that deep, the lionfish that are surviving are just moving deeper, wiping out the even deeper reefs. So yeah, we can do what we can do, and people are getting behind it and having some measure of control, but ultimately it's going to be those native predators learning they can eat them too.
All right, well, everybody just give a slow clap of appreciation to nature's.
Good job, nature.
Good job, nature. Well, I think we should say thank you to Rachel Bowman and everyone at Lionfish Invitational and everyone at NOAA who makes the trip happen, because for picking us to keep going on the trips. It's always very fun and very useful for us to get to experience that.
And we wouldn't have this podcast to share out, so I'm glad that I'll echo that appreciation, because this is content for me.
Say thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
All right. And thank you for listening to this episode of the Podcast Aquatic. If you have a question for an expert like Adam or Kimberly or Avery or Kyle, you can email me at podcast@tnaqua.org. And while you're online, if you have an idea for a future episode of the podcast and want to share that, the same address is the best place to reach me. While you're online, leave us a rating or write us a review if you have the time. Those are both free and easy ways to support the show and are very much appreciated, especially by the algorithm, which helps us to reach more people. And in the meantime, until next time, remember that every drop matters.